golly.
Fantastic.
Okay. What do we have here, Dick?
On this car?
Yes.
This is called a refrigerator car, or a reefer. And it was used basically to handle, on the passenger trains, to handle perishables. The silk trains used them years ago in handling raw silk. They were used for apples, Wenatchee Valley, and the apple trade was used. Cherries were hauled in them, many types of fruits and perishable goods. And they were hauled at express rate.
And they were pulled, as I recall, right behind the engine.
That's correct.
I wonder why they did that. Have you any thoughts on that?
Yes, because the trains had to be made up and broken up at various division points. And since this was separate from passenger, they could disconnect it without disrupting the passenger train.
Okay, now let's get into the Pullman a little bit more. I noticed that these have six-wheel trucks. Why six wheels?
Two reasons. One, for weight distribution, and secondly, for comfort. It made a much more comfortable ride on a big, heavy car than what the four-wheel truck.
You know, my father was with the Milwaukee in the passenger service on the Hiawatha. Now that we're on the passenger cars, he told me that whenever you get into a train or a bus or a streetcar or any of these big cars, the most comfortable place is in the center of the car.
That's correct. Not over the wheels.
So I once rode on a Pennsylvania train. This was during World War II, and I got the seat right over the wheels, and it had, the seat, as I recall it, had very thick but hard cushioning, and I just bounced all for this whole trip. It was, well, after you got off the train, you were still bouncy, as a matter of fact.
I believe that.
Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Okay, the diesel.
All right, this is a, back to General Motors, and this was the F9, which was used on the Empire Builder after, in the 50s, and was simply modern diesel passenger power. Could be used for freight, too, as well.
Okay, Dick, now we see sometimes trains, pictures of trains that use diesels like these. These are pretty much a thing of the past. I don't believe the Burlington Northern, now the successor to the Great Northern Railway, has any of these left? Do you?
Yes, they have some, but they're limited. They've gone into bigger and better power.
Oh, okay. But you'd see pictures with only one used. Then you'd see a B unit and maybe two B units, and sometimes four or five or six of them.
Because one engineer and one fireman could handle as many engines as were needed to cover the tonnage.
In other words, they tailored the amount of engines to the tonnage on the train.
That's what killed the steam locomotive, and that's what made the diesel.
And we can certainly understand that we do have to operate as efficiently as possible because we, the public, pay the freight, as they say, for bringing the freight to us.
It is a business.
And it has to be considered that way. Dick, would you cover this Great Northern Blue?
Sure. That was called the Big Sky Blue theme, was used just before the merger of the three basic railroads, and was short-lived because the Burlington Northern, which formed from those three railroads, of course, eliminated that particular trademark scheme.
It was, as you say, an interim color scheme, a rather interesting one to be sure. But let's stay on the Caboose for just a little bit more. I'd like to point out one thing. This is called a full vision or a wide vision Caboose. You notice that it kind of overhangs a little, so that the crew can determine exactly what is going on, whether they have hot boxes or what have you. Now, we'll be back in just a very short time, but here's the word from Woodcraft.
Hobbies and crafts can be fun for everyone in your family, young and old. Here's Claude Newman of Woodcraft Super Hobby Stores with a few reasons why.
Great choice and low cost and great selection. Something for everyone in crafts, young and old. And we'd like now to show you the Craftmaster Paint by Number, the string art, and the leathercraft kits. And something new, the Grandfather and Wall Clocks by Arrow. They are $11, and when they're finished, when you finish them yourself or someone you've given a gift to, they actually run. Great fun at Woodcraft.
Whether you're looking for a great gift or just a satisfying hobby, crafts please and educate everyone. And the Woodcraft stores are super hobby craft stores. You'll find one in Roseville at Harmar Center, at Signal Hills in West St. Paul, and at Bryant and Lake, 2 blocks west of Lyndale in Minneapolis.
Well, Dick, back to another diesel, but this time a Baldwin.
Right. They were very commonly used through the 40s and the 50s. Baldwin built them. They were had four-wheel trucks that were used generally in the yards. They were used occasionally on the road.
Very, very nice color scheme. I think that Great Northern with their orange and green is one of the color schemes that will certainly be remembered. But now we're going to come right up to the present, and Dick, will you cover the F-45?
Well, the F-45, as you see, is painted in the Burlington Northern scheme, which is the merger of the Burlington Railroad, the Great Northern, and the Northern Pacific, and the Spokane, Portland, and Seattle. They were all owned basically by the same shareholders, and it made for a much more efficient and dynamic road.
And they are one of the leaders and the largest railroads in the country, and they headquarters right here in St. Paul.
Also one of the most successful.
They have fine people. I've had some dealings with them, and they're top drawer people. Now, the F-45 is General Motors, and it is actually a 4,500 horsepower locomotive. And when they lash up, and that's the term that they use, when they put more than one, they can pull big coal trains and big unit trains and do a bang-up job of it. Now, I'd like to show you a book called Lines West, and I'd like to call attention to the fact that it is on the Great Northern Railway, and we'll kind of page in here, Dick, just a little bit, and if I hope I find that on that introduction. There we are. I wanted you to cover these little emblems for just a little bit.
Okay, these emblems started back, the square emblem that we see up here and the one that follows it go back to the turn of the century and the early part of the century. Then in the early 20s, they introduced the Great Northern Goat. They called him Old Bill back in those days, as you can see from here. Then it evolved later on. They were very, very big for a long time on See America First, which was...
Glacier Park.
That's correct. It promoted America, though, as well. And then they moved from there into still a goat facing forward and simply saying Great Northern. This prevailed into the 30s and into the early 40s, and they overlap somewhat, Claude. Here's a side view, side silhouette of Old Bill, and by this time maybe people remember the commercials with Rocky the Goat for the Empire Builder.
Right.
And then this was the short-lived but very, very attractive logo that was used just before the merger.
That's on the blue cars. Well, this book, anyway, is just loaded with pictures. Unfortunately, we will not have an opportunity to get inside here and see them, but there's a lot of history in the Great Northern Railway and in its rolling stock. And at the Big Harmar show, which we're going to tell you about in just a few seconds, you'll be able to chat with many people that are interested in Great Northern and, of course, the other roads that serve the Twin Cities and some of what we call foreign roads like the Santa Fe, UP, etc. And it's just... Model railroad time, of course, is winter time, and this is why we have this big show coming. And now we'd like to have a commercial word on the show. Okay, now here we are in February 1979. Here's a calendar. I'd like to get a little bit of a close-up on this calendar, if we might. And you will see that we are at February 3rd, and that's way up here. And down here on the 25th, that's the Sunday, the 9th annual Model Railroad Show will be held at the Harmar Shopping Center. We're now showing you a picture of the entry blank that you can pick up from any one of the three Woodcraft Hobby stores, which tells about what's happening there. We don't want you to miss it, and it's going to be Sunday, February 25th. 1979, and the hours are noon to 5, 3,000 parking spaces, and we're going to feature model displays, kit building, diorama, railroad movies, and door prizes. Down on the bottom is your entry for the door prize. Now, these are available only at the three Woodcraft Hobby stores. That's at Harmar in St. Paul, on North Snelling, at Signal Hills in West St. Paul, up on Robert Street, and then, of course, at Lake Street and Bryant Avenue South. We recommend that you write that down, put that day down, because you can take the whole family. Its cost is absolutely free, and you can talk to modelers during that day. Dick, we're planning on you being there.
Oh, I'll be there.
That's for
Wouldn't
sure.
miss it.
It's a great day, and we literally have thousands of people come out for this big show on February 25th. We want you to be there. Well, so long, everyone, from Woodcraft, and we suggest that you try a Woodcraft store soon. So long.
That's it, folks, and thank you for joining us on the Woodcraft Hobby Show. You'll find the real thing at Westlake and Bryant Avenue South, Minneapolis, and another Woodcraft Center at Harmar in Roseville, and a third big Woodcraft Super Hobby Store at Signal Hills in West St. Paul. Remember, you never pay for parking at a Woodcraft store. So shop happy, shop Woodcraft.